You access account administration by selecting the Account Admin button, which is here in the upper right corner of your TouchStone screen. If for whatever reason you do not see that Account Admin button, all that means is that you're not an administrator. And I'm going to go over more specifically what that means when we get into account administration. But if you're been set up as a user in TouchStone and you don't have access to Account Admin because you're not an administrator, then you won't see this button right here. So I'll click Account Administration, and it takes you to the Administration Center. First thing you see over here to the left is your user list. So each user that you've created will appear here with their first and last names, as well as it shows the username or username login that you've created for them. Every account with your basic subscription gets 5 users. So you'll be able to go and create 5 users for your system right off the bat. If and when you want to upgrade your users, so you have more than 5, you would go here to Upgrade Account. This will then show you how many users you have currently and how many you're using out of what you have. If you want to upgrade, you just select the Upgrade button here and then hit Update at the bottom. If you want to downgrade your users, it's the same thing. You click the lesser amount and then hit Update at the bottom. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the point of having new users would be as we discuss account administration. Creating users gives your employees or people that work for the company access to TouchStone. So with the employee's own unique username and password, number one, you as the administrator or the manager can restrict their access to TouchStone. So that's the primary thing. Administrators have access to everything. So they can go see everything in the 4 functions, they can create new things, they can delete things, they can edit what's there. So full access is what the administrator has. When you create a user, which is this one right here, John Black is an example of a user, and I know that because the icon shows he's a user and not an administrator, which would show as a key. Then you can restrict that employee's access to TouchStone and give them only access to the things that you want them to have access to. In addition, you can give them different levels of access, so read-only, edit, or create. Another reason to have employees set up in TouchStone with their own usernames and passwords is here on the home screen. You can also assign them control panels. So when I log in as myself here with my own credentials, I can go to my control panel here, and when I complete things and save them back to TouchStone, then it's unique to me. So the only people who can see what I'm doing in TouchStone as far as completing processes, filling out checklists, is me and my manager. If you give a bunch of employees the same username and password, if they would go to the control panel, they would see what each other are doing, and they'd be able to overwrite what each other are doing. So that's another reason to set up users where everyone has their own unique username and password. So to create a new user, you click this icon here where it says New User. First decision you have is what type of user it's going to be. Administrators, again, have access to everything in TouchStone. So it's a pretty high level of access. It's the highest. So you only want to give the admin username users to high-level employees who you trust with all of your content and you trust with the ability to kind of manage and use that content appropriately. Everyone else should be made a user. So I choose user in the drop-down list. Then I'm going to put in the name and the username for that user, and it should be an email address, and it should be a valid email address. And that's because if they lose their username and password, they will use the password recovery or could to get it. And if it's a fake email address, then it's going to send the temporary password nowhere. Then you give the user a password. You have to type it in twice. The first and last names are the only other required fields. So use the employee's correct first and last name. You can put an address and any of this other content that you want, and then you hit Create User at the bottom. So now you'll see this user's been put on the user list, and it goes in alphabetical order by last name. If I want to then edit this user, I would select it, and I can go and change the username. I can change any of the content that I've inputted here, including I can make them an administrator or from an administrator to a user if I like. And then I just hit Update here at the bottom. So you can see from the key here, this user I've added has been made an administrator. And then I can go and change it back again, make them a user again. So all of the information is editable once you've created it. At the bottom of this profile screen, you see the password for this user. So as long as the administrator remembers their password, they can always go to Account Admin and reset anyone's password just by selecting that user and then going and adjusting it at the bottom. You can delete users. This is the next icon over, Delete User. I hit the drop down here and I see all the users on my user list, select, and then hit Delete. Easy as that. Are you sure? And OK. The one thing to remember about deleting users is if you've had that employee in their control panels here on the home screen, completing things, putting in notes, all the activities that occur in the control panel, if you delete that user, then that information is gone. So if you have an ex-employee that you want to remove from access to TouchStone, make sure you go to their control panel if you need to, look through any of the information that you want to keep here in this completed folder. You can also run a report, and then you can export that to Word and save it if you need that information. Next icon over shows you the profile of the position. So anytime you're on any of these other tools and you want to get back to the profile, which is basically just the details of that user, then you hit the Profile button. Next icon over is how you assign access to the user, to the employee. So if I click User Access on myself here, I'm an administrator. In fact, I'm the key account holder, which just means I'm at the top of the list, and I was the first user to be assigned when the TouchStone account was created. If I click this user and go to User Access, I'm going to get this message just saying that this user is an administrator and has access to all the positions and everything in TouchStone, so you can't restrict access. If I go to a regular user on the list, like John here, and I go to User Access, now I can assign his access. So what we're seeing here is my organization chart, and you'll see your organization chart here as well. So the organization chart is up here, and this is the chart that you create that identifies all the positions. This is the same chart. It just is in tree view, so you see it in more of an outline. When you assign access to a user, you're assigning them access to a position on the organization chart, which then gives them access to all the processes on that job description. So that's how the access works. You give an employee or a user access to a position, and then you're giving them access to all the processes on that job description. So if I give John here access to the sales position, what's happening is I'm giving him access to all the processes that I've put here on this job description, so all of these processes. Anything that's linked to a job description that you give that user access to, then they will be able to access those processes and use them. So back to user access. So I would select the position that I want to give him access to. Then the next decision is what type of access is he going to have to those processes on the salesperson's job description. There's read access, which means all he can do is read what's there and print it. There's edit access, which means that he can edit what's already there. So he can go in and access the processes. He can go to the process tools if they've been created, and he can edit the content. He can't create new processes. He can't move the processes around. He can't create new process tools. All he can do is edit. So I'm going to give him read access to this position, then I hit update. So someone's asking about if a user can have access to multiple positions on the org chart, and the answer is yes. Occasionally, employees will fill more than one position on the chart, or they'll need to have access to certain other positions because maybe they fill in for that position when the other person is gone or sick. So you can give a user as much access as you want. You can give them access to all the positions on the org chart if you like. You can give them read only and then give them edit or create to other ones. So I'm going to also give John access to this marketing assistant position. And this time we'll give him edit access. And then I hit update. So now you'll see, because it's indicated in green, that he's got edit access to this marketing assistant position. Then I'll go and give him access to, how about bookkeeper, just for fun. Let's give him create access to that position. So now you can see from the chart he's got access to all three of these and the different types of access. It's common for if the employee or the user is a manager, then they would have create access, I'd say, to all their subordinate positions. So you would, let's say this user is the manager of admin finance. They may have just read-only access to their position, and then would have create or at least edit access to the positions underneath them. And the reason why is it's a manager's primary responsibility to create and manage and innovate the processes that their employees are accountable for. So you want to instill that kind of mindset with your managers and make sure that they understand that it's their job to go in and innovate, to update. So let's log in as John here, and you can see what it looks like. So this is John's username and password. Hit login. So now I'm logged in as John here. So I put in his username and password, the one that we created in Account Admin, and now I'm looking at the TouchStone account that John would be seeing based on the access we gave him. So if I go here to the organization chart, you're going to see everything is grayed out here except for these positions that I gave him access to. If we click on the sales position, this is the one I gave him read-only access to. So you'll notice all these icons are gone. There's the export icons, which allows him to print. But there's no other functionality or things that he can do on this job description. If I select a process here, you'll see all this functionality is grayed out. I can look at this checklist that's here, but that's all I can do with it. I'm clicking around. I can't edit or do anything to it. And again, I can export and read, but I can't change the content. If we look here at Marketing Assistant, I gave him edit access to this. So if we choose a process here, I don't know what this one's got in it, but I can access this work plan here, and I can change it if I want to or add more tasks to it, but I can't create new things or delete anything that's here. You notice there's no delete option at all. So go back to the org chart. Now I gave him create access to this bookkeeper position. So this is the highest level of access aside from being an administrator. And if I select a process here, I can now go to these work plans. I can create new work plans. I can edit what's here, but I can also create new things. I can put in work plans and checklists and scripts and build the process, not just edit what's there, but build new things. You'll still notice that there is no delete button up here or down here. And the reason is you have to be an administrator to be able to delete a whole process. And that's just the security mechanism, making sure that things don't get, people don't go in and start deleting unless it's really thought through. Okay, 4 key functions. So John's going to have access here to the processes that are on those job descriptions that we gave him access to. So if I select getting the business here, the ones that are not grayed out are the processes that are on the job descriptions that I've given him access to. So he can go and access the processes from here, but this process is on that sales job description that he only had read access to. So even though I selected it here from the 4 functions, I still only have read access to it when I go to it. So employees can see the 4 functions, but again, they're only going to be able to access the processes that have been put on the job descriptions that you've given them access to. So someone had a question about when you give access to a managerial position. So let's remove this access. So we're going to go here, and I'm just going to hit remove. So you can take it away as you gave it. Now he doesn't have access to that anymore. I'm going to remove this one, and we'll remove this one. So if I give John access to a managerial position like this one, I'll give him read access. TouchStone will automatically give him access to the subordinate positions. You'll see he then has read access to the positions underneath him, which is correct, because if he's the manager, then he should at least be able to read the processes that his subordinate positions are accountable for. But in addition, I can go in and take salesperson here and then give him create access to that. So he still only has read access to his job description, the manager, marketing, and sales, but he's been given create to this position underneath him. So usually the managerial positions look something like this. Create for all the positions underneath. And generally I would suggest giving at least edit to their own position, maybe even create, because you want your managers kind of thinking about the work that their employees are doing, but you also want them focusing on their strategic work and their processes, their own processes. Someone was asking about what happens when an employee leaves your company. So if you have an employee that you've given access to and they get fired, say, and so it's difficult circumstances, just like you would take their keys away and you would shut their email off and all the things that hopefully you would normally do and should be a part of your termination process, you would go to TouchStone and either change their password, which locks them out, or delete them as a user. So the thing about deleting them as a user that you want to remember is if you've had them completing things in their control panel. So I'm the manager, marketing, and sales here, and I'm going into my systems, and I'm completing processes. So I'm doing performance reviews, or I'm following my time management process, and I call things up like a checklist, and I'm filling it out, and I save it. Any of that information that you want to keep, that you don't want deleted when you delete the user, then export it to Word or print it. So the things about a managerial position that you would want to archive or keep are going to be, performance reviews if they're doing those, and those have been done and saved. You can easily go to the reports tool, and we're going to cover more of the details of how the control panel and management review and the reports tool work next week. But you could go here to the management review reports, and you could call up that user that you're about to get rid of, and you hit run report, and you can see everything that they've created or they've completed in TouchStone. And then you can decide what to keep if you want to keep anything. So think about, the access to TouchStone the same way that you would access to your other proprietary information. When an employee leaves, then you want to shut their access off. I have heard of situations where owners have forgotten to change the password or get rid of the access for an employee who left under difficult circumstances. And in addition, in this particular situation, they made that user was an administrator. So that person was extremely disgruntled for, I can't remember why, but went in and started deleting things in TouchStone. So we were able to restore their account because we keep extensive backups. So we restored everything back to its original state. But it is, something that you want to be aware of. And this isn't just TouchStone. It's all your other information regarding your company. You want to make sure that you're, being safe and you have good security around it. So that's user access. Take the user. Again, they have to be a user, not an administrator, and you can set their access. The next thing you can do in account administration is set control panels. So here I have a control panel, if I go to control panel, for the manager of marketing and sales position. And if we look here on the home screen, you'll see that control panel right here. So you want to assign control panels to positions or to employees for the positions that they fill. So here's John again. And if I go to control panel, now I can assign him a control panel. So let's say he really is a salesperson. So I choose that control panel. I hit staff because that's not a managerial position. So that's the only question you have to answer here when you set the control panels. Is it a managerial position, which would give them management review for the positions underneath them, or is it a staff position? So I hit staff and update. So now I've given him a control panel for this position. So what that means is when he logs into TouchStone, let me see if I still have this open. Just refreshing. I go to the home screen. I've given him this control panel. So when he logs in, now we're in his account again, I see this control panel that I've assigned him. Also, one thing I want to point out about this account too, this is the user that we created and gave access to. He doesn't have account administration right here because he's not an administrator, so he can't go into account administration and do anything. So let's go back to me here for a second. If I go to the control panel here and I remove this control panel, I'm just going to remove it, and we go back to the home screen here, you'll see there's nothing here. So when no control panels have been assigned for that user, then this appears blank. In fact, that management section's gone as well. So if I go back to account administration, and I choose my name on the list, and I go to control panel, then I can assign myself the control panel. So if I'm the owner of the company, and let's say this is a growing company, and we've built an organization chart which is for the future, so it's showing where the business is going, then what might be very typical is that I'm the chairman of the board, so I give myself a control panel for that position. I'm the president, and I got one for that position. I'm the manager of marketing and sales, because we haven't grown big enough to fill that position yet. And maybe, unfortunately, I'm still a salesperson. This might be how it looks for some growing companies. It's not ideal, but that's the reality of it. So when you're building TouchStone, you're building your org chart and your processes, you want to think into the future, because as I'm filling all of these roles, hopefully the processes are being worked on and developed. And as the business grows, I can start to replace myself with other people. So if I go to the home screen here, now I see I have 4 control panels. Plus, because I've got managerial control panels, I now have this management review section. So all of these employees here have been set up as users in account administration, and just like John here, have been given a control panel for that position. So not only can I go in and access my processes and do my work, but I can also see what they're doing. This kind of setup can be really useful because a lot of you, even managers, not necessarily just the owners, wear multiple hats, like you're juggling things all the time, trying to do your strategic work, do your work as the president, continue to do marketing strategy, and then, oh, you got to do sales sometimes. So TouchStone helps you prioritize and create structure for the different accountabilities that you have. Very hard to wear multiple hats like this. You all know, those of you who are in it or have been in it. You don't want to be in a situation in your business where you're multitasking in so many different ways that you're being constantly interrupted. And what tends to pull your attention all the time is always going to be the technical work, because that's got to get done. Like, you have to make the sales. And what's always going to suffer is the strategic work. So have control panels like this in situations where it makes sense, because I can go here to my processes for board of directors and I can work on them. I can say, what do I need to do as the chairman of the board? When are we having our next meeting? What is the strategic marketing plan or the strategic forecast for the company? When are we going to talk about that? Then I can go here to president on certain days of the week and say, okay, what do I have to be doing as the president? Maybe I need to work on the management philosophy, work on the budget, work on my new profit sharing plan. So I see these processes, everything I'm accountable for, and I can work on them in a more organized way. And then same thing with manager of marketing and sales. What do I need to do as this position? I'm managing the sales people, so it's more of a direct management relationship. And then even a tactical position. If I'm doing sales, then I want to follow the sales processes just like everyone else needs to. Someone's asking what these numbers mean here. So this is just part of organization strategy. So here I have 4 salespeople. So rather than having 4 boxes, which is unnecessary on the org chart, it just creates redundancy. I'm just going to put the number 4 here, which represents how many people or positions are in that role. I've also got these little hire dates. If I'm the manager of operations right now and the president, I can look to the future and say, okay, well, in Q4, we're really going to try to hire this position. We're trying to get sales up to that level where we can hire. So you can use these little hire dates as a way of kind of representing where the business is going, and it reminds you every time you look at the org chart. You could have a 4 here, and then you could also put hire 2 more, Q5 or Q4 2017. So you can put in those types of kind of where the business is going goals. Okay. So again, this is where you assign the control panels and play around with it. And you can assign a control panel, and then you can go and log in as that person and take a look and see what they've, what it looks like for them. If you don't give any user access to a user and you go in and assign them a control panel, it's going to automatically give them read-only access to that position. So John here has got a control panel for salesperson. If I haven't assigned any further access to him, edit or create, then he's going to automatically get read-only access to this position. He'll have to, otherwise he can't use the control panel. There's also these little help menus that are throughout Account Admin. So if you click this, it kind of goes over in more detail exactly what I've been talking about. Where it's probably the most useful is here on the user access screen, because it defines the access a little bit clearer for you, what read access means, what edit means, what create actually means, and specifically what can happen and not happen. Going over the icons here at the top, user accounts always takes you to the user list where we are now. Account settings allows you to adjust the look and feel of your TouchStone account. Only the key account holder has access to account settings and can upgrade the account. So I go back to user accounts here. I always know who the key account holder is because it's always at the top here and it's designated with this gold key. Other administrators, even though they have access to everything in TouchStone, including account admin, they're not going to see this account settings and upgrade buttons. So if you do want to upgrade your account or adjust the kind of look and feel of it, then log in as the key account holder. So if I go to account settings here, the main thing that's cool about account settings is down here where you can kind of adjust the look and the feel of your TouchStone account. So the header color is white for me right now. If I wanted to change that, I just go select it, choose a different color, and then hit update here at the bottom, and then it changed this header, or changes this header color. The text color is the text of these icons over here. So I can go down and click text color, choose a different color, hit update, and then it changes that color. I had someone the other day, and I think this is a bug we're actually going to get fixed, but they put their header color and their text color to white, and so like all of this didn't appear as if it was there, like disappeared. So if that happens to you, then you just know that you can change the text color to black or something that stands out from the header color. You can also upload your logo. So you browse and find your logo. Hit open, and it loads it. Make sure this flag is checked, display logo, and hit update. If I don't have this checked, even though my logo's here, you won't see it. So make sure you check this display logo and hit update. If you want your company name to show in the header, so it's not in your logo like ours is, then you can go here and say display company name and hit update. So TouchStone pulls it from the business name right here. So that's how it knows. And then you'll see it appears. If your logo has your business name in it, then go and uncheck this, unless you like it, and hit update, and then it just hides it. The default colors right here, if I put those back, it's always going to be this green and white. So if you've uploaded a new, or you chose a new header color, a new text color, and then it's still green, then just go down and uncheck this, display default colors, and hit update, and then the display or the default colors go away. Yes, someone's asking, when you put the logo or name in the company, will it appear for each user? Yes. So every user is going to see the same header color, text color, and logo. So like if we look back at John here, I'm just going to refresh the screen. You'll see I'm in his account now. You'll see it changed. So for every user, it all looks the same. Whatever you put in the key account holder puts in the account settings. And again, this is upgrade account. So if you ever want to upgrade your users, then this is where you go to do it. If you're considering upgrading your users because you really want to start using the control panel and get into that, but you're kind of not sure, always give us a call because we'll give you like a month to try it out with new users. We also oftentimes give discounts for upgraded users because the more your employees are using TouchStone, the more successful you're going to be. The better the documentation is going to be, the more relevant it's going to be. It's not going to get outdated. Managers will manage it. And we know that the more people in the company that are in TouchStone working on it, the greater your success will be and the greater your account will be. Okay, so let's go to the home screen here. So just a few minutes or thoughts on the Message Center here and public processes. So the Message Center is an internal communication system within TouchStone. So it allows you to communicate or send messages between users and also from TouchStone to external email addresses. The only thing the Message Center doesn't do is it won't get messages from the outside in. So from an external email address, you can't send a message that will appear in the Message Center. So it runs on inside of TouchStone. What's useful about it is because it doesn't accept external or email addresses or spam or any of that, everything is very clean inside the Message Center. The communication is typically only about processes, the development of them, the implementation of them, the training, the updating, the implementing, things about processes in TouchStone, like managers requesting employees do things in their control panel, employees notifying managers of when they have great innovative ideas. So this communication through the Message Center is purely about processes and the use of them. Doesn't mean you can't message about other things, but that's its intention. that it's a way for you to communicate about the development and the implementation and the management of your processes. So it's super easy to use. You just hit this plus sign to send a message. So if I click in the to field here, I can enter an external email address. Or here, I can create an address book, and then those email addresses will appear. These are all my users from the user list. So I can select these people that I want to send the message to, and you see they're appearing right here behind me. I can give the message a flag, which I think is a great thing for time management. Anytime you can organize your communications so that employees know what it's about, whether it's urgent, whether it's normal, whether it's a request, that helps with time management. We all get into this terrible cycle where you're glancing at your email all the time, trying to assess visually what's important to deal with now, when you have to deal with it, and it's just such a time waste. So whether you use the message center or not, consider having some protocols with your email, either the subject or the way that they're organized, a system for using email, which helps manage time. So these flags are preset. Could be a management request, a task request, a response to something, the announcement of a new process, the announcement of a process that's been updated. You have a further field here to put a subject. So you can put in, if this is a process update announcement, you can put the name of the process. Here in the message box, you can put in, this process has been updated. You can even make a link to it, and then you send it. So I sent this to myself, so here it appears. When I get these messages, I have flags, or I have folders that are the same as the flags. So over here, you'll notice these folders. You can create folders right here and label them whatever you want. And when I get messages like this, I can move that message into its correct folder. It's the same idea as like when you get piles of things on your desk, and following good time management, you organize it into the correct folders. So you've got, long-term, due today, due by the end of the week. At least that's what I have. And then when stuff comes into my inbox, I organize it. So I don't have piles of things in my inbox and all over my desk. Basic kind of desk management, I organize it into folders. And then I deal with it. I've got this running file just full of stuff that I want to get to later. Every 6 months I go through it and I dump half of it because I'm never going to get to it. But at least it's organized into some way where it's not sitting around kind of cluttering everything up all the time. So same idea with email. Have folders which represent subject areas or specific requests, and then organize it into those folders. So again, this is about good time management. You can take urgent things, and maybe the rule or the policy is urgent things are looked at and dealt with right away. Everything else is organized as it comes in, and then you have certain times during the day where you go through the folders. So in the morning and in the evening is usually the best. If you go through things in the evening, then you can plan for the next day when you're going to deal with them. So messages can be organized that way, and then if I've got task assignments or I've got employee requests or new process announcements where I need to go in and review them, then I can go to that folder and I see everything that I'm supposed to deal with. I can click on it, go back to it, and deal with it. So again, this is just an extra tool in TouchStone that kind of helps with communication. Communication is essential in every business, and there is oral communication where you have meetings and discussions, and then there's written communication. Written communication is essential, and it's generally in the form of email. So think about how you're using your email system. Consider whether having a system like this in TouchStone would be useful or not, or using it. Down from the Message Center are the public processes. So we've kind of touched on this along the way, but basically this public folder is for processes that are company-wide information. So they're processes that the entire company needs to use and is accountable for. So processes that are the individual accountability of certain positions are put on their job descriptions. So here, everything on this job description is the responsibility of the manager of marketing and sales. A lot of these managerial processes may be the accountability of all managers, but it's not every position in the company. It's just all the managers, so it's just on all of their job descriptions. There are always processes in every company that are company-wide. There are things that everybody in the company needs to have access to, needs to know, needs to be able to look at as a resource. These types of processes a lot of times are human resource related. They can be company strategy related, related to training and in-service training, communications, how to answer the phone, how to deal with your email. Sometimes strategic things like the strategic plan for the year would be here. But mostly human resources. So things like the new employee introduction and orientation. If everyone wants to go back and review that basic information that they all learned or documents that they needed to get when they first started working. The employee handbook, that's another very common one. Things around safety and health and well-being, if you have anything like that. So how you put a process in the public folder is you select it from the 4 functions list, like strategic planning here, and then you fill this box in, make process public and available to all users. And then it puts it into the public folder. Everything's drag and drop here, so you can put these in a different order if you'd like. But that process I just selected is now here. When I select a process from the public folder, it takes me to the tools of that process. So here are all the documentation for time management. Just like when I access a process in my control panel, I can't edit or change anything here. It's opening in the control panel view. So all I can do here is look at the content and use it. So it's not the same as going to the 4 functions, having the right access, of course, being able to access a process, like time management here. Now I'm accessing this from the 4 functions. I'm selecting it. Now here, I've got the right access. I could go in and change and edit and do whatever I want to any of these content. It's different when it's in the public folder. When I go to it here, again, I'm just seeing copies of what was created over here. So this is about using it, being able to access it, being able to see what's inside of it. If I go to a tool here, like this daily planning checklist, and I fill this out, and I save it back to TouchStone, now it's saving it in my control panel. So I can always access it and see the copies of it. If my manager wants to see that I've done my daily planning, they can go into management review here. And over here, they see all of the public processes. But when they go to the time management one, even though it's public and every user has access to it, if I go here, since I'm in management review for John, I'm only going to see what he completed inside of it. So I'll see his calendars, his checklists. Okay, so in the minutes we have left, I want to talk about the system of the week, which just happens to be time management. I chose this process for the week because I think it's a good subject for all employees and managers and businesses to consider. I think we all assume to a certain degree that as adults, people can manage their time. But the truth of the matter is employees, everyone gets overwhelmed. And if you don't have tools, if you don't have methods, if you don't have a process, it is difficult to just kind of make it up as you go along. As business owners, for those of you on the line who are, when your employees are being inefficient, it's wasting your money. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but that's the truth. It's wasting their efficiency and lack of productivity, whether it's intentional or not, is losing the business money. So from this perspective, it's essential to make sure that your employees are working efficiently or as efficiently as possible. From an employee's point of view, if there's no time management processes in place, no expectation around that, and they're getting constantly bombarded with more and more and more things to do, which happens in small businesses a lot. and you come in with a new idea, and then there's 20 things they're doing there, and then the phone's ringing, and it just becomes very overwhelming and stressful. And the employee feels stressed, they get irritated, which impacts their productivity as well and their overall happiness. So time management is not a new subject. I'm sure you've all thought of it, but there are some basic proven tools that help. So we have a process on time management that you can find in the library. It's here in Guiding the Business. So if you add from Process Library here, General Processes, you'll find it. I have it right here. Generally, the time management process is a public process. And that's because all employees should adhere to it or use the tools or learn from it. So there are some work plans here which kind of describe the basics of time management. This is how to do a daily activity log, so tracking what you do every day. If you're in a situation where there's so much going on that you just don't understand what you're supposed to do every day or how to get it done, then doing an activity log can be helpful. So you basically track what you're doing every day. And then look at that, go to how to eliminate interruptions, because that's one of the biggest time wasters. So track your activities, go think about the different ways you can eliminate your interruptions. So these are some suggestions on eliminating interruptions. Things as simple as, only check your email or be available for phone calls between certain times during the day. Unless you're a secretary or you're in an immediate position where the phone has to be answered right away, a customer service position where there are expectations around that, it's pretty safe to say that you can create time slots throughout the day where you do these administrative activities so that every time the phone's ringing, you don't pick it up. You leave a message on your voicemail that says, I answer phone calls between 9 and 10. So simple things like that. Having an autoresponder on your email is good as well. This isn't bad customer service. This isn't the kind of position where not everyone's in the kind of position where they have to answer immediately. This is, I check messages between this time and this time. If it's urgent, then call this number. So simple things like this. So look at this kind of eliminating interruptions. Then focus on planning your day. So again, back to the beginning, if it's kind of all over the place and you don't kind of understand what your activity should be for the day or how to organize it, start with a daily activity log. Then go and analyze that and think, how can I eliminate interruptions? Then go and decide, how can you plan your day to be more efficient? I had a efficiency planner come in one time, and I used to be an efficiency planner, so I really appreciated this. And helped for a whole group of people, helped by having us do these day activity logs, identified the key points where interruptions were getting in the way, and then what the daily planning schedule should look like. And it just, it improved efficiency tremendously. One of the things we were doing is interrupting each other all the time for unnecessary things. So it's things as simple as that. And things that are more complicated, which take a bit of planning. So planning out your day. There's even a little video on this right here. Down here inside the process are some uploaded files. This is a good article on eliminating interruptions, creating a task list. There's a daily planning form. All of this is here as well in the forms. This is called a time log that you can do for daily activity tracking right up here. So if you have any employees who need help with time management or you need it yourself, just use the time log to track activities. Any of you who are in businesses that were your time is your money, so whatever time you spend on particular projects or with clients equals the amount of money or profitability for that client or that situation or department. then this is an essential tool to do and have. I keep activity logs most days just to kind of show or see what's happening. For certain employees, when you're analyzing efficiency or productivity, doing daily activity tracking or daily time logs like this one, like this form, is really useful. It doesn't take that much time. Like I'm sure some of you are looking at this going, I don't have time to track my activities. Or the employees are going to look at it and say, I have no time to do this. I can't track my activities. It takes 10 minutes a day to do this, and we've timed it. So all you do every half an hour, just log in the activity. You don't have to write paragraphs on what you did. Just log what it was when you started, when you ended. Log what interrupted you, if anything. 10 minutes a day. The amount of information that you'll get from an efficiency point of view, a productivity point of view, from doing this 10 minutes a day is well worth the 10 minutes a day. You're wasting way more time than 10 minutes by not doing it. There's another form here on prioritizing and planning tasks. And all of these forms and how they're used are described up here in the work plans. There's links to them. And then there's this daily planning sheet. So this is different than a calendar. So I have a calendar, and I also have this. I take from my calendar the appointments for the day. They're usually certain time blocks. And then I've got a whole list of to-do items, tasks, people have to call back. There's usually a huge list of these things, folders I want to get to. So I'll look at the empty time slots during the day and decide, okay, what can I do in this hour? And I don't let it get drug out into other things. You stop at 9 o'clock and follow through on the tasks that are on your daily prioritizer. At the end of the day, create the prioritizer for the next day. And then check off the tasks as you do them the next day and have it rolling from one day to the next. It doesn't always work out every day. Some days go crazy and you just I don't even look at it. But most of the time, try to follow it. Now this is even more important because all of you are in TouchStone now and you hear me talk about documenting the processes and all the work you have to do. Well, that's all, in a sense, extra work now that a lot of you are facing. It's essential work, important work, but it's extra if you haven't been used to doing it before. So now you're trying to carve out a whole other hour, maybe a day, to work strategically building the business. Or maybe you're an employee that's been tasked with documenting your processes, and suddenly now you've got, you've got this extra work to do. So thinking about your efficiency and deciding when and how you're going to do this strategic work can be very useful, and this time management process can help with that. So back here on the home screen, if I want to use the time management process in TouchStone, I can access it here from public processes if it's been made public, or I can access it if it's on my job description through my control panel. And when you go to it, now all these tools, you can use them. So if I want to practice doing a time log every day, or you want to delegate to an employee to do the time log, they can fill it out right here. These fields are all live now. And I can save this, as Monday. When I save it, it date and time stamps it. So you don't really have to use the save as, as the day of the week. And then fill it out. Fill out with begin, end, total, and then save it. Do that for a week. If you are going to delegate this to an employee, then the manager can go and look at their daily activities that they were doing that week. Here's this daily planning form as well. So I call this up. I can put in my high priority tasks, list them out, save that, do this for the day, save it as Monday. The next day rolls around. I've got what I did yesterday. Then I can go and hit it again. Now I've got a blank copy. I can take from the form what I didn't do the following day, put it in here, add more. So this can be done, inside a TouchStone, and it becomes a nice management tool because if I have these group of salespeople focused on time management for the week and really want them to each find, one thing that's interrupting them and come up with a solution for, and they're doing all that in TouchStone, then I can go look at it and make sure they're doing it. Any other questions before I let you all go? No? It is, someone saying it's hard to do time management. It is hard, and it takes practice. You know, it takes diligence every day. There's this great time management. It's not Covey, but someone else who talks about time management and did some statistics on how long it takes for someone to change. You have to create a habit out of it. It feels really difficult and hard at first, but when you create a habit, then it becomes natural, and then it becomes part of what you do all the time, and you would never leave it for anything. Some of you may have more sophisticated time management tools than what you're seeing here in the library account or the library process that I showed you. That's even better. But I think a lot of us get stuck with even trying anything. So if you don't have another method, if you don't have another tool, then use some of the basics inside of TouchStone, because these are the things that you'll find in other tools, and they're the basic kind of time management principles that have been around for years. So practice. Try it for a couple weeks until it becomes a habit, and then decide, you know, whether it worked or not, or look back and see how much more efficient you are. Okay, everyone, next week is going to be a big webinar. We're going to talk about the control panel really specifically. I'm going to show all about that functionality, and then I'm going to show some different techniques and ways to use it, different situations where you would use it, where you wouldn't. And then we're going to also talk about management and management inside of TouchStone. So we're going to discuss some good management principles and some ways to manage processes using management review that makes management easy. So I will talk to you all next week. Take care. Bye.